With many years of paranormal investigating under our belt, there has been some amazing evidence collected from some amazing locations. Many of these locations have not been featured in any video from 4State Paranormal, nor do all of our investigations make it to haunting history. We are opening the vault and bringing you inside some of our most memorable investigations and telling you our story firsthand. So take a trip with us as we explore our haunted past. As I was building interest in the paranormal, I had ran into a guy named Gene Keys online in a forum who was telling people about sharing his experiences and photographs. So this is before I even started the team, so out of curiosity I contacted Gene and found out that he was local to us, and he actually started telling us about a house in Neosho. He invited Mike and myself over to his place to listen to some EVPs and see some photographs and stuff that he had captured. And we were pretty blown away by what we had heard and what we had seen. One of the things that he showed us from this particular residence was a photo. And in this photo, it looked like there was a female peering from the basement stairs, like behind the basement stairs, peering outward. Keep in mind this is 2006, so the camera quality is not the greatest. But in the photo, you can see what looks like detailed eyes. You can see like a hairline, possibly a nose. And the most peculiar thing about it was there's a discoloration like on the forehead, what looks to be red tinted. And I don't want to say it was blood. I don't want to speculate, but it looks very peculiar. But we saw this photo and it just kind of blew us away. But Gene had set up an investigation for us that night. And we went to the house and did an investigation. One of the weird things was when we went to this place and we tried to recreate it, we could not. There was it's a rock basement, but there was no rock or anything behind the stairs. It was pretty weird, to put it mildly. Now, the backstory on the house was that it started in the early 1900s and was a funeral parlor. But next door to this building was the old Neosho hospital. And it was rumored that in the basement there was a tunnel that led from the funeral parlor to the hospitals. So they would bring in the corpses for them to prepare for funerals, and for the viewings and everything. But it was also rumored that the family had a female child, who was mentally disabled. Also, in that time, that people who had kids that had mental disabilities, they kind of shunned those kids. They would put them in attics and lock them in basements and hide them from the public because they were embarrassed. They didn't know how to handle it. And the story goes that the family that was running the funeral parlor had a girl, who was mentally handicapped, and they locked her away in the basement. That wasn't substantiated. It was just a rumor. We weren't able to find any factual information on that, but early 1900s, I don't know how well the records would have been kept for something like that. This was my first residential, and this was before I even had a team, so it was just Mike, Gene, and myself. And the husband and wife that lived there, they had experienced a lot of things, sounds, voices. Their kids would play with these imaginary friends. But they actually took a picture of one of the kids while he's playing with his friend. And there's a misty apparition sitting next to the kid. And I wish I had the photo because it was actually pretty impressive. Our investigation actually kicked off in the basement because this is the area where it's the most active. And the homeowner, Dan, he was actually giving us a tour down in the basement, and we actually picked up on our audio 2 EVPs of somebody saying, "Help me."
Shine the flashlight over here. Shine the flashlight over here.
At the time, we had no idea that we captured this. This would only be a precursor to the rest of the night. While we were investigating down there, I had felt on 2 or 3 different occasions, it felt like somebody was tugging on my shirt. Kind of freaked me out a little bit at first. Mind you, this was my first residential. This is probably my second investigation or second time attempting anything like this. And I was feeling these touches and these tugs on the shirt. We took turns going down there, and each one of us felt this tugging. I ended up going into the son's room because they were telling us that in the closet, or coming from the closet, was where the imaginary friend would come from. So I set up a camera in this room and I did an EVP session. Now on the camera, I actually captured something that some people would call ectoplasm. Nowadays, looking back at it, it could be lint. It was a solid white mass, but it had a little bit of a glow to it, and a little bit of stringiness to it, almost a smokiness. But for the most part, it was pretty solid. But you see this solid object with a little bit of fuzziness and strand to it, just kind of floats by the wall and into the closet. And that was weird at first. You know, that I was pretty stoked that I'd caught that. But unfortunately, over time, that video has been lost. But in that moment, I actually did capture an EVP. And in the EVP, in the audio, it actually sounds like somebody is saying, "Shut it off," or "Shut it up," or something like that. It's still up in the air to this day. So from 2006 to 2007, of course, we formed a team and we investigated there a few more times. We weren't able to substantiate anything, but we did pick up a few other EVPs along the way. Being that it was my first residential and, one of the stepping stones to founding the paranormal team, this was one of my favorite places, and it's always got a special place in my heart because Gene ended up becoming a team member for us, and it was the first time Mike and I and Gene all investigated together. So it definitely has a special place in my heart.